Hi there, it's Friday the 18th of June 2021 and we are continuing to focus on the question, is God in control this month? And of course the answer according to the Bible is very much yes. And this week we've been looking at God's will and how God's will might play out within our own lives. In particular looking at the example of Joseph and how God's will played out in his life. So far we've learned that God reveals his will to each of us. Now God has revealed his will through his word in so many different ways, but God also has plans and purposes for each one of us individually, as he had for Joseph. And it was to rise to a position of prominence, and God worked out his will in Joseph's life, and he revealed it to him through a dream at the beginning of his life. Secondly, God sends people into our life to help us to fulfill his will, while we recognise that there will be others who will seek to hinder us. And thirdly, God tests us through difficult circumstances on the pathway as we continue to follow his will. And fourthly, God will always provide a way forward to keep pursuing his will. Even in the most difficult of circumstances where you think there is no way that I can keep going pursuing God's will as he has shown me in my life. There is no way for me to keep going doing this. But that's not true, because God will always provide a way forward, an opportunity, a pathway, however narrow, however difficult, however seemingly hidden. There is always a way forward to keep pursuing God's will until we see it fully realised in our lives. And that was the truth for Joseph, even in the most difficult of circumstances for him, when he was in prison and seemingly no way out. Genesis 41 verse 15 and 16, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream and no one can interpret it, but I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream you can interpret it. I cannot do it, Joseph replied to Pharaoh, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. And then verse 39 and 40, after Joseph listens to God and shares what God says about Pharaoh's dream, then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning as wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. In the darkest prison, when the promise a friend had made to help him had failed, when it seemed he was going to rot in jail for the rest of his life, when it seemed that that dream that God had given him of rising to some position of prominence, when that seemed a joke, a mockery, because he was in the lowest position of prominence, he was as far away as you can get from any high position. And yet in that circumstance, God provided a way out, a way forward. And it was if Joseph would be able to trust God to interpret Pharaoh's dream. Now that was a challenge, and it was a test of Joseph's faith. And the way forward will always be testing and difficult. It may be a narrow way. It may seem as though you have to step off the edge of a cliff or into the unknown, or it's a pathway that is dark and you don't know where it's going to lead. But if it is God leading you forward into that, there is a way forward to continue to follow his will. There is always a way forward from God. May God bless you and help you to find his way forward. In Jesus' name. Speak to you again tomorrow.